Here we are in Berkeley Heights, and the passenger schedule for the day starts with a Pullman train, which leaves from Berkeley Station and goes all the way to the end of the line up at Union Summit. And so here goes the Pullman, one of the first trains out in the morning. You can see the consist includes a diner named Sally, a Pullman car named Amy, a Pullman car named Lisa, and the last car is Patricia G. And you see it's preparing for the last run of the Arpree and Western on March 1st, 1939. The next train out in the morning is a milk train, and they are taking milk cars that have been iced, that are empty, and distributing to all the milk platforms throughout the rest of the Arpree and Western territory. So the engine number 89 is backing in to the station for the pickup of the passengers first. And so the engine 89 is hooking up to the two coaches and the baggage car. Meanwhile, coming onto the scene from Dixon comes the gas electric and the trailer car, which provides service from Dixon to Glenwood with a stop in Berkeley Station. And this train approaches from the east. Up behind Crowley's Dairy, it'll take a switch, change, and then go back into the station. So the gas electric is backing now into track number 3 in the station. And no sooner will he arrive than the milk train will begin to leave. The milk train now has a coach, baggage cars, and will proceed west and pick up the empty but iced milk cars at Crowley's Dairy and Ice House. So here we are, we see Crowley's Dairy and Ice House, and the train, passenger train, is now backing in to pick up these milk cars. We have Crowley's Dairy on the layout because when we were kids, my father and mother ran the bakery called the Corner Bakery, and Dad used to use Crowley's cheese in making cheesecakes. And so sure enough, on this Arpree and Western system, we had to have a Crowley's Milk Company. It supplies and processes milk for all of the territory. And you can see we're ready to go. So this train is off now for the headed west, and we'll leave these empty but iced milk cars at the various sidings along the way where there are milk platforms. Another train that we run every day is called the Berkeley Industries Switcher, and you can see it approaching now from the east, and it's going to be pulling out, picking up some cars from Berkeley Milling. In fact, it's going to be taking all of them out today. And you can see behind the train, the industries that are here, in addition to Berkeley Milling, is the ink blot. More of the industries that are in Berkeley industry area. You can see the Woodstock Motor Works. This is kind of named after my father-in-law, Pat's dad, and he and his brother were founders of a club in upstate New York called the Woodstock Motor Club. Actually right outside of Sotheby's, New York. To the right of that, you'll see ink blot printers. And when my wife was teaching junior high school in Summit, she had a magazine that the kids wrote articles for, and she typed them up on an old Apple computer. And the name of this paper was the Ink Plot. And so I see the switcher is putting a car, and it's going to drop it right in place in front of one of these industries. There you go. Here we are in Arpree Yard, the freight terminal of the Arpree and Western. And you can see the turntable is moving over to track 7 to pick up engine 311. And engine 311 is ready to come out of the station, out of the roundhouse. Notice the roundhouse is in 2 parts. The old one where the 311 was is about 50 years old, and it recently made a new addition with the brick one. So 311 is being turned around and heading west, and it will pick up its train in Arpree Yard. Engineer forgot he had the thing in reverse. It can pick up water here. And of course it needs coal. So here the engine would pick up coal, and if necessary could pick up sand in the sand dome. After this is complete, it will go back and will proceed forward and dump any ashes if it needs to, and it can be washed off. But that was probably done earlier. You can see it's pretty well shined up, ready to go. And in Arpree Yard, we're going to classify this West End freight train that just came in. The West End freight engine has been removed and is put in the roundhouse. And now the Arpree switcher, which is an HH660, is pulling out of the yard and is going to pick up the consist that was just left here and is going to classify these into the appropriate tracks. Okay. Another feature of the Arpree and Western Railroad is that we have a big junction right here at Arpree Station. Arpree Tower is here guarding the way, and here comes the Ulster and Delaware train is arriving from Catskills on its way back to Rondell. And it's going to pull in and make a station stop. In the meantime, from the west, headed east, is the Milk and Mail train. The Milk and Mail train left earlier this morning and is now returning, and it makes a station stop at Arpree Station as well, so that passengers from the west can jump on the Ulster and Delaware train and head down to Glenwood and to Rondell. Early in the morning, and the coal train is arriving at Argent Mine in Albany. This train not only serves the Argent Mine, but it also handles cement from the EGC Cement Company over in Lancaster. So it's got a lot of switching to do. He also knows that there's a passenger train approaching from the west, which has to make a stop here. So our freight train is going to clear the station and the crossing, and the returning Milk and Mail train will stop, make a station stop. Here we are still in Albany, and if you're looking up on the hill, you will see the local moonshiner. He's sitting on the porch enjoying his wares. Not far from the house you will see the outhouse. They need that because of what they're drinking. And the still is right behind the outhouse. This makes lots of local moonshine. Also down the foot of the hill you see Albany Station and the milk and mail train returning without the milk cars is now returning to Berkeley Yard. Later in the day there'll be another milk and mail train. Another milk and mail train will originate to pick up these milk cars in the afternoon when they're full. Bring them back to Crowley's Dairy. Here we are back in Albany, and the coal train engine has disconnected and it's making a runaround move so that it can put into the coal mine the one empty car that we have on this train. The rest of the cars are going west over to Lancaster. So he's making this end-around move here, and as soon as he gets past the passing siding switch, he'll come in on the track, pick up the empty, and then move it into the mine. So the coal train has now positioned the one empty car at the head of the consist, and he's pushing that into the empty track in the coal mine. Here we are in Madison. This is toward the western end of the Arpree Western system. You can see that the track work is completely installed. However, the scenery is yet to be done. There are numerous industries that require switching, and there is also an interchange track where trains coming into Madison will leave traffic that goes down to the New York Central Ulster branch. Yep. All right, here we're looking at Rondout, which is the low-level end of the Ulster and Delaware, right by the Hudson River, and this is the terminal point where freight and passenger trains need to be turned around to go back up to Catskill. You can see we're here at Marshall Junction now. This is in the mountains of the Catskills, and you can not much here. At the end of the Depression it was sort of a depressed area, but its important point is this is the junction between the Arpree and Western and the New York Central Ulster branch. they interconnect here, exchange traffic. Here we are at Glenwood. This is the other end of the Glenwood and Dixon lines. It has an interchange track to take traffic off of the layout down to unknown parts of the East Coast. You can see it has an engine turntable for turning engines, and numerous industries which are served by the twice daily freight trains that come in and out of Glenwood. Here we are at Union Summit. This is the end of the Arpree and Western line. You can see the station is in place, but the rest of the buildings have not been completed and the scenery is still pretty lacking. All the track work is in though, and the Arpree and Western lines operates daily. There are at least 5 passenger trains here every day and 2 freight trains. Here we are at Ulster Park. This is the end of the line for the New York Central Ulster branch. Trains from here the passenger train goes to Berkeley Yard. The freight trains just take freight cars in and out, and they leave them at the interchange tracks at Marshall Junction or at Madison. Here we are in Lancaster. This is the home of the ECG Cement Company and the HMS Brickyard. You can see the scenery is not quite done, but it is very actively served by the ABC train, the Argent Mining, Brickyard, and Cement train that comes in at least once a day. You notice the bright sunshine here. The clouds part once a day, and despite the smog from the cement mill, this town has lots of tourists who come for the daily exposure to the sun. Here we are at Monsi's. Monsi's is named for a dear friend of ours, Alan Monsi's, who was part of my crew in North Carolina. Alan died while we were still there, so we added an extra town along the line called Monsi's. Also in Monsi's is a Haas custom explosive factory. This is named after my brother-in-law, who died last year. He worked for Hercules Explosives up in upstate New York. But Monsi's is part of the railroad that you can tell is not scenic yet, but is fully operational. Well, here we are at the Arpree and Western dispatch panel. As you can see on your left, we have a telephone system. The red phone came right from the White House and has been used here so the dispatcher can contact all of the stations, particularly the yardmaster. On the right-hand side of the dispatch panel is the control panel for the fast clock. We run at 6 to 1 fast clock, and our normal operating session of about 3 hours, we usually cover 13 or 14 hours of the schedule. On the desk itself is the overall train schedule, so that the dispatch can tell exactly what should be running and where it should be, and it depends on the engineer and the conductor of each train to call and tell him exactly where he is. He then plots using the magnetic board where the trains are located across the Arpree and Western system. The other thing I need to talk about is that we have a golden rule here on the Arpree and Western. There are 3 rules to follow. Number 1 is you must show the green. That means make sure you set all switches back to the normal direction. The next thing is read the red. On our schedule and train instruction sheets, you will see important things in red. And third thing is to call the dispatcher and let them know where you are. So it's show the green, read the red, and call the dispatcher.